Welcome back to the crypto world channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now Bitcoin is continuing the bearish trend as the price is now running into this critical area of support, while a massive new signal is now flashing for the crypto market, while Ethereum is still repeating history in the short term. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, taking a look at the 4-day Bitcoin chart, and right now we're still seeing this bearish signal here in the super trend indicator on the 4-day Bitcoin chart. So nothing has really changed here on the 4-day time frame over the last 1 day. And so basically here on the 2-day time frame, technically speaking, we're still within this bearish trend right here, forming lower highs and lower lows. And while this bearish trend is continuing in the price of Bitcoin, we're technically forming a descending broadening wedge pattern as this line of resistance and line of support are actually moving apart. And so as of right now, we have this line of support coming into play at around 53,500 approximately, and we have this line of resistance coming into play at around 68,500. And so obviously, while the price of Bitcoin is in between this support line and this resistance line, technically speaking, we're still trending in the bearish direction, at least for now on this time frame. But in case you're new to this channel, obviously during this bearish trend, we can see some bullish price action here and there. So just because the trend is bearish, that does not mean that we cannot see some bullish price action here and there. That's perfectly normal to see even during a bearish trend. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, obviously we've continued that rejection from, first of all, this line of resistance that we saw a rejection from close to a week ago at close to $63,000. And we saw another rejection from this area of resistance in between around 60,000 to 61,000 approximately. And right now the price of Bitcoin is basically running into this area of support based on previous significant support in the price, sitting in between around 56 to 57,000. And so as of right now, that is the support that I'll be watching. Once again, 56 to 57,000. But if we break back below 56,000 with a daily candle close, for example, back below 56K, then in that case, we have a significant area of support based on this volume profile indicator in between around 51 to 53,000. And it's possible we could also find a little bit of support at around 54,000 approximately based on these daily candle closes right here. And so that's the support and resistance levels that I'm paying attention to right now on the daily Bitcoin chart. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour Bitcoin chart and comparing it to what we saw back here near the bottom of the March 2020 crash, what we can see over the last 1 day is the first divergence really between basically what we're seeing at the moment compared to what we saw back here, because over the last 1 or 2 weeks, we've been seeing very similar price structure right now compared to what we saw back here. But what we've just seen over the last 1 day, just recently, is actually a new lower low forming just in the imminent short term here on the 4-hour time frame, and we did not end up seeing that back then. So that is a bit of a divergence between right now and back then. And so effectively, this is a sign telling us that we might not necessarily continue to play out this fractal, basically continue to repeat history. It's unlikely that that could continue playing out basically similar to what we've seen just recently, because once again, we've started to now diverge between this and this. But overall, just in the short term, I'm actually relatively neutral on the price of Bitcoin, not overly bullish or overly bearish. And if you want to know why that is, first of all, just before I talk about that, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of Bitcoin or crypto, personally, I take just about all of my trades over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit down below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link down below this video to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account, then you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus using that link down below this video. And also, if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here, which is a massive lucky draw happening right now over on Bybit, where you could potentially win up to $100,000 or some free Bitcoin or Ethereum or USDT or some other prizes here just by trading crypto using the link down below this video. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I'll also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex down below this video as an alternative crypto exchange. And now one of the reasons as to why I'm saying I'm actually relatively neutral on the price of Bitcoin just in the short term here is because overall we're actually lacking momentum, especially in these short-term price oscillators. These are basically trading sideways, like the RSI for example, and other price oscillators are looking relatively neutral. And also due to the fact that right now, technically speaking here on the 2-day chart for example, we're still within a bearish trend, but if we're looking at some other factors, these are looking slightly more bullish. So they're kind of balancing out to overall look relatively neutral, because if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map right here, we can see that over the last 1 day we took out a lot of liquidity to the downside, which means a lot of the liquidity that is left here in the short term is actually sitting to the upside. And now we do actually have a little bit of liquidity to the downside here, still sitting at around 55,500 to 55.8k. But with that being said, we have a significant area of liquidity in between 59.8k to 60.2k, and a major level of liquidity at roughly around 62,000 approximately. And so even though we have a small amount of liquidity to the downside, once again, most of the liquidity at the moment is sitting above the current price. And so that's just one reason as to why we could see potentially a slight little relief, basically balancing out the bearish trends that we're seeing at the moment, resulting in relatively neutral price action here in the short term. And also, while the price is still within this bearish trend, another reason why I'm a little bit more neutral, which is actually more of a bullish signal in the short term, is very negative funding rates right now across Bitcoin and a lot of altcoins across many different exchanges. Because as you can clearly see right here, a lot of these funding rates across the crypto market are right now sitting in negative territories, which basically means there's a high demand for short positions and a low demand for long positions. And so that basically tells us a lot of crypto traders out there are currently bearish on the market, and not many people are bullish on the market right now. And it also tells us that there's a premium on short positions, because when the funding rates are negative, that means the short positions are having to pay extra fees basically every 8 hours to the long positions. And that happens when there's a very high demand for short positions. When everyone wants to go short on crypto, basically there's extra fees, these funding rates that they're having to pay, because there's so many people wanting to go short and not enough people wanting to go long. And so because of that, these funding rates act as a balancing mechanism, basically resulting in the shorts paying more fees to the long. So the long positions are actually earning fees from the short positions when the funding rates are negative. And so due to that fact, there's now this extra incentive to open a long position and an extra incentive right here to close a short position, because once again, the shorts are having to pay more fees and the longs are earning those fees. And when short positions close out of their trades, that actually adds buying pressure to the underlying asset. So if a Bitcoin short position closes, that adds buying pressure to Bitcoin. And if a long position opens, that also adds buying pressure. And so that's one of the main reasons as to why negative funding rates is considered a bullish signal for the crypto market. And another reason why this is considered bullish is because negative funding rate is actually a main ingredient for a short squeeze. Because once again, negative funding rates tells us a lot of people are trying to short the crypto market right now. And when there's a lot of people shorting the market, a slight move to the upside in the price of Bitcoin or whatever crypto that people are shorting, a slight move to the upside here in the price can liquidate a lot of short positions. And when short positions get liquidated, that basically adds more buying pressure, because that's effectively short positions closing, pushing the price higher, which liquidates more short positions, pushing the price higher, and so on. That's what a short squeeze is. And so that's why I also just mentioned earlier that at least for now, a lot of the liquidity that's here in the short term is actually above the current price. Those are the liquidation levels for those short positions, where those shorts would begin getting liquidated, potentially resulting in more of a short squeeze. And so all we really need to see now in order to basically kick off a short squeeze is just that initial bounce to the upside to start the process, just to start liquidating some early short positions here. And once we see that initial catalyst starting some sort of short squeeze, then we could actually play out a proper short squeeze here in the short term, but only if we first see some sort of decent bounce here in the short term. And so once again, due to all of those factors, with these funding rates looking negative and the momentum looking neutral here in the short term, but still occurring within this bearish trend, overall that all balances out to look relatively neutral just in the short term, which is why I'm relatively neutral in the short term right now for the price of Bitcoin, not overly bullish or overly bearish. And with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, right now we're still seeing that major bounce from this critical area of support in between 2000 to 2150. So not much has changed here on the weekly time frame. And if we're looking at the 3-day time frame, we've just seen a rejection from very close to 2.8k, which is acting as strong resistance, as I've already been warning about basically every day over the last 1 week or so. And so once again, 2.8k is still acting as strong resistance for the price of ETH here in the short term. So that is still the significant level to pay attention to. And if we see a breakout back above 2.8k, then in that case, the next level of resistance is sitting at around 3.2k, at least based on these previous Fibonacci levels right here. But once again, 2.8k is the immediate resistance to pay attention to. And as for support, we should find a bit of support close to 2,500, and below 2.5k, we have more support at this golden pocket in between around 2150 to 2.2k approximately. And when it comes to the trend and momentum right now here on the 3-day time frame, technically speaking, we're still within more of a bearish trend because we're still seeing lower highs and lower lows, which is what a bearish trend is. But remember, even during a bearish trend, we can see the occasional pump back to the upside or slight bullish relief or sideways consolidation, even during a bearish trend. And with that being said, if we're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour time frame right now, the price of ETH is still seeing very similar price action right now compared to what we saw back here near the bottom of the March 2020 crash. Because in both of these circumstances right here, we saw that initial crash to the downside and then the initial low and the initial reaction back to the upside. And then we saw a secondary pullback forming a higher low in the price and then more of a bullish relief over the next few days. And then we ended up seeing another short-term pullback forming yet another higher low in the price, and then another bounce back to the upside over the next 1 or 2 days, and then a bit of sideways price action here in the short term, followed by a little bit more of a pullback, but still remaining above the previous lows. And so that's basically where we're at right now, still seeing very similar price action to what we saw back here. And if we're taking a look at what came next in the price of ETH over the next few days, following basically where we're up to right now in this fractal, we can see that over the next couple of days, we actually saw very neutral price action, only very slight moves up and down, but ultimately it was relatively neutral price action just in the short term over the next couple of days. And so this actually aligns very well with what I was saying earlier for Bitcoin here in the short term, how basically I'm relatively neutral right now on the price action for Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm just very neutral right now, not overly bullish or overly bearish. It's likely that we're going to see relatively neutral price action just over the next 1 or 2 days, just in the short term. But remember, zooming out, this is still currently occurring within a bearish trend. And with that being said, taking a look at the price of Solana on the daily time frame, right now we're still running into this critical area of support, at least as of recording this video, sitting in between 140 to 144. But if we end up seeing a confirmed break with a daily candle close, for example, back below 140, then in that case, the next major area of support to the downside is sitting in between 120 to 128. And that's basically the final major area of support for this entire sideways price range right here. Basically, we're trading between this area of support that I just mentioned and this area of resistance all the way up here in between 183 to 187. But of course, before we even reach that level of resistance, we have some other resistance to watch out for. For example, at around 159 to 162, give or take, and around 170 to 175. And over the next 1 day, for as long as we're holding above 140, technically we could play out a bit of neutral price action over the next 1 day. For as long as we're holding above 140, once again, Solana will kind of follow along with what Bitcoin and Ethereum is doing. But if we actually confirm a break below 140, then in that case, that would be a short-term bearish signal. So if we break below 140, if we cannot hold that level, then in that case, once again, we could likely see a move down towards the next area of support over the following days if 140 breaks. But as of right now, the price of Solana does not really have a lot of momentum here in the short term, and especially in terms of the overall trend right now here on the daily time frame, because the trend is basically neutral. We're in a massive sideways price range, just chopping around sideways, like I just mentioned earlier. And once again, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, check out those links down below this video to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways in a sideways price range just like this, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.